It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The Sister Speak Brother Break Show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together. Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Sister Speak Brother Break Show. As always, I have a special guest, but today he's super duper special because for the first time, I am having a conversation on camera with my big brother. And so this is somebody, of course, who is very special to me. Was my hero growing up, y'all. That was my hero. And he's still my hero. And I'm glad about it. And so for many people who know him, he is Pastor Paul Bush. But to me, it's Hammond. He is Paul Hammond Bush. And growing up, we called him Hammond. So today I'm talking to Hammond. That's right. And everything that he does as far as church, as far as civic organizations, all of that stuff, we applaud him for it. But today I'm just sitting on the couch talking to my brother Hammond. But I know that in our talking, you are going to be encouraged, enlightened to keep going. Hopefully you'll see some things in his life that give you clues about what God is doing in your life. And so I know you're going to get something great from it. And I do thank you for coming to just talk to me. I've been looking forward to it. You know, there are some people, as soon as I knew that the Lord was telling me to do this, there were some people that I just started writing names on the list, just writing names. And your name was definitely there. And so I'm just grateful that you're here. It seems the more I do it, the more authentic, I guess you call it, the conversations become. Because I haven't been writing down a lot of questions or anything. I just want us to talk. So, Hammond, I have some stories that I remember. Now, you're 11 years older than me, of course. So during those years, I was not around. And then, so my memory of you probably comes when you were probably 18, 19, maybe 20. But in those younger years, what do you remember about how life was growing up as far as what formed you? Not just life in general, but the things that kind of made you who you are.
I think mainly what I remember, Marcy, is just the fact that, I call it, we live a simple life. Life was simple to me then, and life is really somewhat simple to me now. Mm-hmm. You know, because we had such a big family of siblings, of cousins, of never having a summer by ourselves. Because we always had the added cousins in there that just made summer special. Yeah. So, of course, I remember, growing up on the farm, being in the fields every day, playing with the neighbors. We had the Johnsons on one side, the Jacksons on the other side.
The Glovers across the street, the Bryants up the road.
So everything within that circumference and that circle just made who we are. Michelle jokes a lot, and you hear her joking about whenever she introduced me and said that I'm from New Ellerton, I correct her. I said, no, I'm from Talitha. I'm from Talitha, New Ellerton 5 miles up. But we love that community. And there's still that love there for that community where we even people who weren't actually blood kin to us, we became like family. Right. And so it was a growing up on the farm, the learning responsibilities. We would get up literally before daybreak, and we'd work until, I think the old folks used to say, from cane sea to cane sea. And that's literally how we worked. Okay. My young years, I remember working in the fields during the summer, a little bit during school time, getting off the bus, going home and trying to change slow. So the bus would already be passed back by so the kids wouldn't see you going out in the fields.
And you know what I know? Yeah, right here I want to stop and do a thank you, Jesus, because when you talking about all the field action, whew, thank you, Lord. I came in 1970, so I remember us having like a garden for the family. It was not going to pick in the field, so whew, glory to God.
Yeah.
But continue.
And so I guess, so you asked me, what all do I remember in those formative years? And
that formed you, like that gave you, I guess, the drive, the outlook on life, all that stuff.
Well, along with that, Morris, I think what else I picked up in the midst of all that is even at that young age, I saw what all Daddy was doing, from waking up in the morning to getting out in the fields with us before he went to work, pausing, going in, eating breakfast, then going to work. So, we keeping the fields and everything going while he at work. He gets off from work, come home. During the farming time, he would come back, get on the tractor, work or whatever until dark. And then at dark, he would go in the garage.
Okay.
And that's where he had his other automotive, in the backyard, and would work till 12 o'clock.
Okay.
And so, just seeing all that.
So that's why you don't have a stop button. That's why you keep going. Okay.
And I know that's what it was.
Okay.
So seeing all of that. Secondly, like I said, just family. We've always been a close knit family, even though we did a lot of fighting each other when we were younger. We could fight each other; nobody else could fight us. Right. But remember Daddy coming in and saying, especially with Pat, there's Daddy and there's Daddy's boy. How coming, son? Every now and then he'd walk in and, we'd all get together and he'd reach in his hand and throw the money up in the air, all the coins. And but seeing things like that taught me about family.
Okay.
It made me appreciate my siblings. And it just, just taught me that I never saw us as poor, but I saw us as hardworking. What I picked up from that is that, if you wanted something out of life, you needed to work for it. You need to commit yourself to it. And so. Right.
Now, I remember one story, because when I think of who you are, because yes, you're a pastor, you started preaching at what age?
Oh, what age was it? I think I was 21 when I started.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you were 21 when you went into ministry. But what's funny, I remember them talking about when y'all were little and Mama and Daddy would leave the house and would tell y'all to stay home. But they would sneak. This one particular time they snuck away and got candy or something. Went to the store and came back. And everybody heard y'all heard the truck tell it. What happened?
Well, and that was basically it. I mean, Daddy's truck had a distinct sound. And so we could hear him up the road when he was breaking down, getting close to the house. And everybody was fast enough to make it back into the yard and probably into the house before he really got there. But I'm not sure, just at some point, that if Daddy asked, had we been out of the yard or to the store. Anyway, I couldn't keep it. I couldn't.
Everybody else was fine, not saying anything. Yeah. But you had to tell it.
I had to tell it.
And I think but it's funny how little things like that kind of point at who we are. Whatever is kind of in you, especially younger, you just, what's in there, that's who you are kind of to the core. Sometimes for some people life kind of changes, but I feel like from everything that I've known that you are that same person. And I think one of the things that stand out for me when I think about your life, and I think I've said this to you before, I think about how many transitions you've had. And I know for me and for most people that I know, transition can be rough. Like, because things are changing. When I think of transition a lot, I think of kind of like even with a woman who's having a child, or and the closer she gets to delivering that baby, it's like everything starts to feel kind of out of control. I know for me, when I think of transition, it almost feels like I can't find my footing, like I'm in an unfamiliar place. But when I look at you, and I've seen how many, I guess the thing is transition and then this boldness in your decision making. So even when, like, because everybody that sees this won't know, but because our dad has service station, which now has we've just celebrated 50 years in business, and all the boys went through there, and you worked there too. But at a certain time, you were the only one who decided that wasn't your path. To me, that takes so much courage, so much boldness, especially knowing how, like, because of the massive respect we got for Daddy, and because we always want to please, but being able to say, and I'm not even saying there was pushback from him, but just to get the nerve to say, this isn't my path. Talk to me, like, where did that come from?
And Marcy, I really don't know. I do know that that all my life I've kind of thought for myself. I've always been a loner. That's not to say that's good or bad. I just always been a loner. Never been crazy about crowds. Didn't have a whole bunch of.
That's crazy though.
Yeah.
You say you're a loner and you don't care much about crowds, but you are always surrounded by people. So I guess it's kind of like, what do they call it? The extroverted introvert.
Right. And even as I was thinking about our interview coming up, I was trying to find another way to describe it other than Jekyll and Hyde, but just like you said, introvert, extrovert.
And I think that's me. I think that's Sheikah. I think that's a lot of us.
Yeah.
We show up when we got it, but we prefer to be alone.
Because, I tell people the ministry that God called me into put me in the public. But the ministry that he given me started, alone, as it does with everybody, in that silent place, in that quiet place. Yeah. And it's in the quiet place, that he have always dealt with me, that made me be able to face whoever and whatever, publicly. So like I say, didn't hang out with friends, just wasn't one of the hangout kind of people or whatever coming up. But, listening to you say it, transitioning has never really been difficult for me.
See, that's Grace Hammond.
Yeah, I mean, it's never been big for me. The churches where I've pastored would tell you, the jobs that I've worked on, would tell you the employees that I've worked for. And, the term I use a lot is adjust and adapt. I always believe in adjusting and adapting. And pretty much now, anyway we are, whatever is going on, if something happens, I pretty much know what to do. And I can just adjust and adapt that quick.
And see, that's a blessing.
Yeah. And so here you say it.
Normal.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
It's really not normal.
And I certainly know it's not normal because, again, in pastoring, in fathering, even in friendships.
Because most people hang on to what they know. They white knuckle it till, and it seems like with you, it's like, okay, it's time to move. Let's, and I think I shared with you before. I do. I believe it was in one of your church transitions, I believe, when you told me about it, and I said it reminded me of Abraham. Like the Lord saying, you're going to go to a place that I'm going to show you. Right. Like not even knowing, but knowing, there's something in you saying it's time to move.
Well, it was certainly the last one. When I was at Laurel Grove for, I think it's about maybe 21, 22 years then. And, you know, just because whatever I get into, I really put myself into it. And, you know, and I love with a passion, you know, what I do. But at that point, and probably some of the last transitions in my life, Lord, have been some of the most
Y'all excuse me.
Marcy.
So let's talk about that for a minute. Whenever we're together, I become his oldest daughter.
Yes.
So when you hear him call me Lori, it's okay. It's a family thing. That's all right. So yeah.
So, you know, with that being said, because, you know, God was really doing some things with me then, you know, with some things happening in my life, and I wasn't sure why they were happening. Some things that was happening, I know why they were happening. I knew they were the attack of the enemy.
Right.
You know, to try to destroy the ministry in which God had given me, that everything that I ever believed about ministry had been built on. And so with that being done, not knowing what was going to happen next, and then just dealing with that by itself was one thing. The complications, the controversy, you know, that all that caused, you know, so much questioning about, you know, who I am was planted into the minds of others. And, you know, it was like you're under this magnifying glass, which was no problem to me. But at the same time, just, you know, so amazingly how people will just listen and believe whatever said, you know, about somebody. So living through all of that, but having to leave Laurel Grove and having no idea, because when I left Old Rosemary as assistant pastor there, I kind of knew what I was going to do, just everything else. But when that happened at that time in my life, it was a total dependence on God. Of course, you know, going back to when I left Savannah Riverside.
Well, like I said, left Bush's Gulf.
You know, in the middle of building almost a $200,000 home at the time, I just walked off a job. And, you know, it was called crazy, you know, by a whole lot of people. What made me walk off the job? Not at that time that I was getting ready to possibly be laid off, but a couple of people ahead of me was getting ready to be laid off. And I'd been praying to God the whole time about full-time ministry.
Really?
And so I said, well, if I go ahead and take this early buyout, if you will, and I did ask the questions, will it save this person's job? And it was somebody of the other persuasion, everything. And they said, yeah, but they, you know, it wasn't no guarantee. It might save it for a month. It might save it for... But long story, so I did that.
Wow.
When I did that, Marcy, I lost more than over half of the salary that I was making.
Wow.
But you know, I still trusted God.
Yes. And see, I didn't even remember that one.
Yeah. You know, didn't miss a meal, didn't miss a payment. You know, when I left my trailer across the road from Dad, I gave it to my baby brother, left everything there, just told him to take over the payments. You know, when I got the home over at 8 Winthrop, and then my sister Rebecca, you know, she was looking for a home. She got married. They were looking for something. I was in the midst of selling my house, had got a couple of bids where I was going to be making some money, but then she was looking for a house. I said, well, you want this one? You know, needless to say what all I was told and called about, you know, how stupid and crazy I am that I'm going to give my sister a house and lose all these thousands of dollars. And while I'm in the midst of building one, but I gave it a house, fully furnished, left it just, walk, and again said, take over the payments, and went into the next place. So again, those kind of things happening, walking off the job, not knowing what's going to be next, but just trusting God, just knowing, like I said, having no idea where I was going, but knowing what God was saying to me.
Right. One of the things that came to me while you were talking was, because you talk about how you adjust, and what was the other word? Adjust and adapt. You adjust and adapt. And while you were talking, it's almost like that is some type of emotional or mental stretching that takes place when you do all that adjusting and adapting. And it reminds me of people who, because I told you it ain't normal. So there are people, I remember hearing something about this like 90-something-year-old man that fell down a flight of stairs one time, but he didn't get hurt because he stretched every morning. And because he stretched, he kind of knew how to roll with it. He knew how to maneuver, and he didn't even get hurt. And it feels like your normal stretching by adjusting and adapting makes it easier for you in transition than it is for most people. It's almost like, it's like I say, it's just like, because I'm telling you, that ain't normal. Those times of transition are some of the most difficult times. And I know because you're like a grief counselor. You're in, what are some of the things that you're doing now?
Well, a chaplain and a bereavement coordinator.
Okay. And so transition, like it throws some people, it takes them, some people never recover from transitions, whether it's the loss of a job, the loss of an individual in their life, the loss of a home. Like some people just they can't, it seems like it throws them to a place where they're not able to do it. So when you thank the Lord, since you and you might not know how special that is, trust me.
Well, and I'm listening to you because, it's just never been told to me that way. It
is something special, because that's the fact that you can do what you do. I admire it. So like I said, with jobs, with churches, even relationships. So talk to me about this. So I remember that there was one point in your life when you really didn't believe in being, how do I put it? I don't know if I said didn't believe in, but you weren't necessarily one who believed in getting married again, getting married a second time. So tell me about that, because you are married a second time now. So what happened in your mentality, in your mindset that changed? What did God show you?
Life.
Okay.
Life. And when it goes back, Marta, like you say, about the changing and adapting, I just always believed in learning and being open.
Okay.
So with that being said, how we were brought up, what we were brought up, to believe, and I've always said, to churches that I've pastored, to friends, I've always said, that I believed in that the way I read the Bible, the way I understood the Bible is the way that I tried to live the Bible and teach the Bible. But I've always said, I know I don't know it all.
Right.
I know I don't have it all. Everything hasn't been revealed to me. As long as I live, God is going to be revealing. I tell people that God says in the word that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And that's true. God never changes, but to us, he's always ever changing.
Yes.
And so the longer you walk with God, the more you will learn of God, the more you'll understand of God. And though he never changed from who he's always been, to us, it becomes something new in the relationship.
Right. The part of him that we see.
Right. And so I've never had a problem being afraid of learning.
Okay.
Some people don't want to learn about other things and other people because it frightens who they are. And I'm of the belief that I'm still becoming who I will be.
Yes.
But in the midst of learning, one of my favorite passages of scripture is, above all things, get understanding. And so I've always said, even in the midst of getting understanding, we may not agree about what we're talking, but at least I understand where you're coming from. So it makes us respect each other, whether I agree with it or not.
Right.
And so, with that being said, it's just what I was always taught. So I was taught it, I believed it, I preached it, and I believed it with a passion. So when, even when members or whatever would ask me about, during their weddings, my first question would always be, well, is this your first marriage? And if they said, no, this would be my second time getting married, then I would say, well, I can't do your wedding. And they would ask why. And so, I would, go to the scripts where it's, talks about the husband of one wife and all of this. But Marcy, one thing everybody can tell you that I always say, and I'll tell you that to that statement and to what I stood on for, 30, maybe 30 some odd years. At least a good 27 or 29, because I've been in ministry at it 38 years now. So, but what I've always told people, I said, now, and that's my belief. I say, and I'll believe that and stand on that until God shows me different.
Yeah.
But what I would tell anybody, I said, but I won't do or perform your wedding. I said, but know this, I don't have a heaven or a hell to put you in.
Right.
I said, I'm not trying to play y'all.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169. Or you can email us at thessbbshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey together. Missed any of our past episodes? Catch up on past shows on my YouTube channel at Marcy Bush, MarceyBush. And be sure to subscribe so you won't miss any future episodes.